Hey. Sounds like sunshine. Like,
It kind of
sunshine and
sounds like the weather
roly-poly.
outside in Georgia today,
It's
doesn't
beautiful. Yeah, definitely out getting a little color. I love laying out in the sun.
it?
I love
Hello,
it.
my friend. How are you?
I am great. How are you doing?
I'm awesome. We should do our intro, shouldn't we?
I mean, let's bring it in. Let's bring it in. Hi, ladies. I am Shannon Mitchell, a Black female, clearly millennial business owner, the founder of ShealoGlo, an all natural handmade shea butter company. I am a champion for your self care, business care, and intentional wellness.
Hi, y'all. I'm Christine Gautreaux, a white social justice advocate, an international speaker, coach, and published author who helps you upgrade your self and community care.
And together, we are Women Connected in Wisdom, a podcast grounded in the 8 dimensions of wellness. And today, we are going to be talking about intellectual wellness.
Shannon, every week, some weeks it's you and me, and then often we invite a special guest,
Right.
and that where we have intentional conversations about how to be wise in business, relationships, and wellness. And
Yes.
I know I say this every time, but I am so excited about our guest today. I can't wait to introduce our listeners to our guest today.
Yes, me too. No, it doesn't get old. It really doesn't.
I'm just so grateful that we are connected to so many wise women.
Mm,
I just feel so blessed.
yes.
So tell us about intellectual wellness. Wait, before we do that, let's ground.
Yes.
Take
Yes.
a moment and just take a deep breath. A couple of weeks ago on our podcast, we had Shoyanka Rahim on,
Yes.
who Bebo Love, talking about breathe in and breathe out. So let's just do a breathe in and breathe out with a big old deep sigh. This week's been big.
Yes. And what Bebo love is breathe in love, breathe out love, right? Not just the air, but the love is very important too.
Right? I think
Yes.
what sustains us and gets us through on weeks like this.
The only thing that tethers the sanity to the foundation.
Well, talking about the sanity, let's talk about
Yes.
intellectual wellness.
Yes, and it's so interesting, right? Because first, we usually think about intellectual wellness like IQ. How smart is this person, right? But according to the University of Illinois, intellectual wellness actually refers to the active participation in scholastic, cultural, and community activities. It is important to gain and maintain intellectual wellness because it expands knowledge and skills in order to live a stimulating and successful life. In order to improve intellectual wellness, it is important to value creativity, curiosity, and lifelong learning. And that has been so revolutionary in my life, realizing that, hey, even after you graduate college, you can pick your own classes. You have to keep learning. Just because you didn't get a master's degree in psychology, oh, guess what? You still have continued education, and they didn't tell me that. Yeah. So it's been great. What do you think about when you hear intellectual wellness?
Well, I think about my friend Carolyn Renee that we're going to bring on in just a few minutes. But because I think about when it says the value of creativity, curiosity, and lifelong learning. I'm a reader, right? And when you and I were prepping for the show, some of the questions we came across that ask, like, are you engaged in the process of intellectual wellness?
Right.
And one of the questions was, are you open to new ideas? Oh, yeah. Anybody that knows me, like, especially if you got a new idea and we can jump on it and do it, like, let's do it, right?
Right.
Do you seek personal growth by learning new skills? Yes. Check that one off the box, right?
Yes.
You too, our guests too. Do you search for learning opportunities and stimulating mental activities? Yeah. Like when I'm asking these questions, I'm like, doesn't everybody? Like, and then do you look for ways to use creativity? I loved that one.
Yes.
Like, whoa. I think this maybe, well, I don't know. I love all the 8 dimensions of wellness.
They're really hard to pick.
This one I'm pretty jazzed about
Mm-hmm.
because I've never thought about it this way before.
Exactly.
And I think about like intellectual wellness, and I think about emotional intelligence, and I think about how they
Mm-hmm.
come together,
Mm-hmm.
creativity, and really what I think, Shannon, is using our whole selves.
Right.
Like,
Being dimensionally well.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Can I tell you about our guest?
Of course.
Are you like, I'm so ready. I'm so excited to have this conversation. So, I can't tell you yet because I just got a message. She's not quite ready to come on. So I'm
Yes.
glad I was paying attention. All the behind the scenes tech stuff that happens.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
so let's chat a little bit more about those,
Intellectual wellness.
about those questions. I know you to be somebody that is always seeking personal growth by learning new skills.
Thank
I've
you very
watched
much.
you the entire time I've known you.
Yeah.
You are my friend that if I'm like, what's the latest on new business? What's the latest on financial wellness?
Wow.
What's Shannon reading?
Ooh, you compliment me so highly. I
What are
love
you
it.
reading right now?
Oh, so great question. So let me get my fingers out, okay? So we've talked about 168 hours. I still haven't finished that, okay? So that's about time management, which is very important, not only to sanity, working at home, but also to wealth building, because time and money are directly tied to each other, right? We
Right?
talked about emotional wellness. That's the audiobook I listened to. It was an hour-long audiobook. So I was trying to time myself. I was out working, and I said, you know what? I'm going to listen to an audiobook. And that was great to learn about that. I'm listening to Robert Kiyosaki's, which book am I listening to? Um, Give me a second, because this one is really good. This is about not the cash flow quadrants. I read that. Not Rich Dad, Poor Dad, but I can't remember right now. But it's really good. I'm going to listen to all of them. Right. So those are three that I'm reading right now, and actually the fourth one that I'll mention is TSP, Traffic Sales and Profit by Lamar Tyler. This group has been instrumental in my confidence in business, which we talk about, right? You talk about up to date because I'm plugged into TSP in Atlanta. So if you guys, want to be plugged into a bigger community who's actively pouring into the intellectual wellness of entrepreneurs in the Atlanta area, TSP is where I get the juice.
Right?
Yes, that's where I found my esthetician.
That in the show notes. We will
Yes,
put a link to that group in the show notes. But
yes. And Robert Kiyosaki's book, since I forgot it. And it's been, even though his teaching has stretched my mind so much, which is what intellectual wellness is, right? One main person I think about is Robert Kiyosaki. But his each book is different and it gives more information. And I really appreciate the fact that he's not selling books that have the same stuff in it. So, like you said, I think when I hear these questions, are you open to new ideas? Do you seek personal growth? And how you said it affects relationships, that reminds me of communication, which all of us struggle with, right? Everybody's like, oh, I forgot to call you back. I'm sorry. I forgot to call you back, Christine. Actually, you called me and I forgot to call you back, right? We're bad at communication. It's hilarious. But we can be open to new ideas. This person is not the last person, and continue to grow, learn new information, and get new skills under our belt and continue to get better each day will affect every area of your wellness. Because if you're not open to new ideas, it doesn't matter if you're talking about physically doing yoga or running or financially, and you're tracking your expenses and your revenue, like we talked about on our first Clubhouse room, our chat room that we had this past Wednesday.
whoop, whoop.
Or Monday. It was Monday, actually. Excuse me. Monday from 12:30 to 1:30.
Just give a shout out for this middle-aged white woman being on Clubhouse.
Yes. I said, Christine, does Christine have a profile? I should have checked before right now.
Thanks to my friend Carolyn. Thanks for my friend Shannon Mitchell, right?
Yes.
And I know Carolyn Renee's on there too. Like, it's wild. All right. have to tell you about my friend Carolyn Renee.
Yes.
I am so excited. And like with other folks that I'm friends with, I am going to read the official bio so I don't blow it. Because, otherwise I just say she's awesome. That's all. But
yeah, and we need to know the details.
Let me read you some official stuff, right?
Okay.
Carolyn Renee serves as the executive director for the Southeast Community Cultural Center, which we know is the Arts Xchange.
Yes.
It's a 37-year-old Black-led art and justice nonprofit in Atlanta, Georgia. She is a teaching and performing artist, an organizer, and wellness consultant. She is also an expert in the field of nonprofit development. For 2 decades, she's worked closely with artists, healers, and nonprofits to develop programs and services that impact positive change. This is included, but not limited to organizing anti-racism workshops, healing workshops, learning exchanges, retreats, and showcases. As a teaching artist for the last decade, Carolyn Renee has taught playwriting with Synchronicity Theater's Playmaking for Girls program. Playmaking for Girls empowers the voices of women and girls who are refugees in foster care and detention centers through playmaking. In 2015, Carolyn Renee received funding for her second play, The Mother-Daughter Dialogues. In 2020, she launched The Power of Play upliftment portals on Zoom. We call them pop-ups. I've been privileged to be a part of those with her. An initiative to empower the world with online platforms through interplay, an art-based system used to bring peace, ease, and power to the human body. As a certified interplay leader and interplay's liaison to Black and Brown leaders, Carolyn Renee works with other leaders to address issues of racism and to curate Black and Brown spaces that help unpack and release the traumas unique to Black and Brown bodies. Honoring the fullness of all her gifts, because she has a lot of them.
Yes.
Brings in family traditions in the healing arts by integrating them with her art-based practices. She uses Carolyn Renee as her first and last name, and she is also the founder of Women Helping Others Achieve. So I want to welcome to the podcast my dear friend and colleague, Carolyn Renee.
Yay! Hey, how are y'all doing today?
Hi, Carolyn.
Hey, how are you?
I am great.
Okay. I'm grateful to be here with you all, enjoying your chat amongst each other while I was in the green room.
Yes, thank you so much.
I'm sorry it's not like in person green room, because we would have had some dark chocolate with sea salt in there for you and other NAMIs, but virtual just doesn't provide the same green room experience.
It's all good. I'm doing raw today anyway, so I got me a raw brownie.
Yummy.
Good job.
Yeah.
Well, you heard us talking about intellectual wellness, and I thought you were the perfect guest to have on for this topic, Carolyn Renee, because when I think about your active participation in scholastic, cultural, and community activities, you do all those. Like, tell us what you've been up to lately.
OMG. Can I tell? No, seriously. I've been working on I got certified in hatha yoga back in 2019. And my teacher and mentor, Dr. Akua Gray, who is the founder of an organization called Life of Peace Education and Wellness Institute. And, we've been working together for over 10 years. And she wanted me to teach, she likes to wring you out, right? Everything you got, I'm going to wring it out of you. So she knew I had gotten the yoga certification. So Carolyn, I want you to teach my students yoga. She certifies naturopaths. And so she has some students that are on a 2-year track with her. And so they're being empowered in detox therapy, Reiki, everything. So anyway, she said, I want you to build in the yoga component. And she wants the focus to be comedic yoga. Okay. So that's what I've been up to. I've been immersed in a comedic yoga class so that I can build on the knowledge that I've had my first class with the students. So I gave them all the hatha yoga business. And so now this class is coming up in March is all about comedic yoga. And so we know who the foremost is in the world. And I had the fortune of getting an email that he's teaching starting January 9th. And I'm like, okay, I want a front row seat. Yeah, so that's what I've been up to.
Always,
What'd you say?
always learning.
Always learning.
Sorry, y'all.
No, it's all good.
So,
Always learning.
Carolyn,
A lifelong learner. Mhm.
I'm sorry, mine sounds
Yes,
Bluetooth.
Shannon.
Hold on, now I can't even hear myself. Do you hear me coming out regularly, Carolyn, or do I sound distorted?
You sound good right now, but there was a moment. So, but we're good.
Okay. Okay, I still hear a little bit of feedback, but we'll keep going. So I wanted to ask you about your work with mothers and daughters with interplay and how you feel like that ties into intellectual wellness and them learning more things that they didn't know before they started.
Okay, thank you for that question. So, really with the mothers and daughters work has been more an initiative of my own, and it really began before I became an official certified interplay leader. I my own daughter, who is now 27 and will be 28 in a couple weeks on March 17th, had gotten herself into some trouble in the earlier 20s, right before 25. And, I remember us driving down the street and talking about her situation. And we both made this agreement. Well, maybe we should use, we're both artists. So, maybe we should use our art to address this for other mothers and daughters. And so this idea came forth for the mother-daughter dialogues, which was loosely based on her story where she had, gotten herself into the stripping industry. And she is a professional dancer, not a stripper, but I'm sorry, it's kind of funny. She's a professional dancer. She's been dancing since she was 3 years old. But she had gone to Clark Atlanta on a scholarship, and I often laugh about it now because I remember when she graduated from high school, she had the clinking medals, right? So she had all these awards, just top of the class, then went over to Clark Atlanta and got caught up. Started off really well, but then I don't know what this thing, she wanted to get in that industry. And so long story short, it led to a felony, which got ultimately expunged. But, she learned great lessons. She went back, got her degree, and is now doing taxes and pursuing her accounting profession, something she's interested in. She dances, but she wants to help artists with their finances. But anyway, she became the catalyst for the mother-daughter dialogue. So what we did is convene community circles with mothers and daughters. And we started with my mother, who lives in St. Croix. And so she came up to Atlanta. And I started with my two daughters and a host of other mothers and daughters at a restaurant in the West End called Tassili's Raw Reality. And she has a upstairs healing room. And so that's where the mother-daughter dialogues were born.
I love that story. Thank you very much for sharing it.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for letting me share.
Of course.
I think, y'all, that when I think about your body of work, Carolyn Renee, sometimes I hesitate to even know where to jump in because it's so awesome. Between your playmaking, your playwright, the work you do with Interplay now, and the Arts Xchange, like you use both sides of your brain, right? you do the art and the creativity, and you do the administration and the finding grant funding and holding it all together and holding it down and owning your own business. And, we talk about wellness, and I know this a little bit because I'm your friend, but what are some of your wellness practices? Because you're holding down a lot. So what are some of your wellness practices?
I can honestly tell you, one of my teachers, her name is Queen Afua, and she is the author of a book called Sacred Woman. And in the Sacred Woman book, she has these 9 gateways, and it's simply a brilliant piece of work that she's created. Now she's she's always been global. She's been global for a long, long time. She's been at this work for about since the 70s. And so I use Sacred Woman, and again, I reference my teacher, Dr. Akua Gray, who also we've worked together, Akua and I. We've created a system called a Sacred Goddess Temple. So in both systems, there are just so many gems to help you with your care and well care, as we like to call it. But so there's a sacred bath, and so in every gateway, you're focused on a particular goddess, and it is a comedic based system. So it's like, no wonder that I'm, learning comedic yoga. So there are goddesses, there are comedic goddesses, and Queen Afua has just tapped into the energy of each one of those, right? So from your food to your sacred beauty to your so it's what you eat, it's what you put inside your body. So your internal care, right? So, not just the outside, but, I won't detail the inside cleanliness, but there's things that we do to help us be well on the inside out. So that's really how I keep it together. And I have to tell you that comedic yoga, it has opened my mind in ways you couldn't have even told me. So I really was already very indebted to my teacher, and now for her to lead me to this indirectly, because I'm taking it so that I can honor her school and really make sure the students get what they need. And in the process, it has just been the greatest gift.
I would love to hear a little more about that, Carolyn Renee, because I've practiced hatha yoga for years. My little 15-minute, me and Rodney Yee in the morning, I guess you could call it a practice. It's 15 minutes. But what's the difference between those two practices?
Well, I would say tremendous difference. And so I would encourage your listeners, and if this is also visual, to do their own research. But comedic yoga preceded hatha yoga, and so it's African civilization has informed everything we do today. And just like today, in the 20th century, in the 19th century, all in the 18th century, where brown people have contributed to most things that we take advantage of, from the traffic light, everything, and most times, unfortunately, have been ripped off. And so the same thing is unfortunately true when you look at the yoga. So I would say the system itself, so it's very different from the hatha yoga. No knock on Rodney, because I think I got one of his videos from when I was studying hatha yoga. But the comedic yoga system is really about aligning our energy with the gods and goddesses of Egypt, and there are pyramids, and there are hieroglyphics written on the wall. The system is there, is undisputable. And so that's what I have to say that I love about it. And so when you think about the energy of a god or a goddess, when you think about energy of gods and goddesses, and of course we've been taught, blasphemy, you couldn't, but we're great. And so that is the difference. So this morning, before I left home, every morning, and I felt it, I did it last night when I got back home, and I was just sharing with another practitioner. I got to get it in the morning because I noticed like my energy has been off the charts today from, taking that time in the morning to ground my energy. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I know you said your daughter has been working on getting her accounting and different certification, right? I love that she's in the finance industry and helping people with her finances because that's so important. But when I think about pay yourself first, I think about time and money at the same time, just like we said at the beginning of the podcast, right? And I definitely feel a difference in working out and being grounded different ways in the morning.
Right? Like paying your energy first.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And thank you for that clarification, Carolyn Renee. I had never heard of comedic yoga until you started taking this class and talking about it. And so thank you. And we will put a link to it in our show notes for our listeners if y'all want to check it out and do some research on it. And I love that. So I think we may have just gotten the secret, Shannon, to
What?
how she does all the things she right?
Yes. Yep. And I love what she said about being connected to, because especially as a Christian, right, you do want to be careful with the things that you follow and believe in, and we're taught certain things like you said, but me being confident in the body that I'm in does not mean that I'm saying God is not God. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. And especially here in the United States, I think that that's not always a conversation that's had. So I definitely appreciate the perspective.
Now, I read this in your bio, but I also have some living experience with it because I have been privileged to be one of your collaborators in this work. But Carolyn Renee, I would love for you to talk a little bit about your anti-racism work using somatic body practices and interplay and your work at Arts Xchange. And like, I know you as a fierce community organizer and somebody that makes a difference in the world. So I'd love for you to talk about that a little bit with our listeners.
Sure. Thank you so much, Christine. And the work, I'm just like, how did I even get into anti-racism work? I know I was working as an arts administrator in Mississippi at the Mississippi Arts Commission. And it was kind of interesting. Like, as soon as I got that job, I was over a arts-based community development department who had a grant for $10,000 from Alternate Roots. And little did I know I'd be, catapulted into running that organization maybe 4 years after working in that department. But it was really through that grant that we had with Alternate Roots, an organization that was committed to undoing racism, as they were calling it back in the day. So I believe my immersion in the anti-racism work really start to take root, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended. It began to take root in Alternate Roots. But I was interested, I think I started to wake up, because I was married and living in Mississippi. And I just started learning more. Like, I learned about the Southern Poverty Law Center, and they had written this book. And I think I still have that book at home. And it's got all these, it's like these stories about all of these Black men have been lynched, right? And so I even wrote an initiative some time ago of another play I want to do to address some of that. But that's neither here nor there. But I just think that it just started to come alive in me, living in Mississippi, and then as a teaching artist in Mississippi, not only working for the Arts Commission, I would go on my off days to the Delta. And, so I got to see oppression firsthand, right? And I was first called the N-word in Mississippi, on one of my visits. I was raised up north, so every summer we go to Mississippi, and I was called the N word when I was a little girl. So these things just kind of stuck with me. And so fast forward to our work in Interplay, I think it's just something I care about. And so, you know, in Interplay, we did a project about a couple years ago with the Candler Park Biracial History Project. And Edith Kelman and I are just friends from Roots. You know, when I was running Roots, we became friends, but it was just like, hey, how you doing? How you see each other in the community? And then I knew about her Biracial History Project. And I said to her, we were in passing, and I said, we should collaborate. And she's like, yeah, we should. And so it's like, bam, Sankofa Communities was born out of just, you know, us passing. And then we had tea with Jennifer and then you, and then we all started to just build together because gentrification was a thing. And so that project lent itself to us bringing Interplay into the community. And so that's just kind of how it's continued to unfold, you know, just, okay, where's the issue? Okay, how can we apply Interplay to bring some light and love to it more than anything?
Mm-hmm. And I love that answer. And I know that you said the book that you read was neither here nor there, and not in a minimalizing type of way at all. I know that's not how you meant it, but I would say it actually is very central to exactly what we're talking about, right? A lot of times these dimensions of wellness can end up talking or sounding like physical wellness. You guys are just talking about dancing. Well, no, we're really talking about learning new things and how to stay open and staying grounded so that you can stay open during the day to, you know, the different situations and opportunities, like you say, that come your way. And for Black History Month, one of our women in our Manifestation Mondays mastermind, Tracy, challenged us to be fearless for February, right? And fearless is actually one of my words for this year, but I took on her challenge. And I read this book that my boyfriend's granddad gave us when we went to Atlantic City for Christmas. And it completely changed my life. And we've been talking about it on the Manifestation Mondays call. But lynching directly affects how Black people approach wellness. I mean, all of it affects how we approach wellness. But when we're talking about Interplay, Christine has invited me for, it's the third year and I have yet to go, you know, and not because, excuse me, I'm avoiding it or anything like that. But even as somebody who has worked out and has been in band and cheerleading and done physical activities, I knew that when I heard about it, it was something that we didn't always have access to or didn't always use time to go and be intentional about, you know. So that's why I love your story and how you've had the opportunity to weave your intellect in with your creativity, because a lot of times we're either not told not to do that, or we're told that they're opposites, and we forget that the creativity can make the intellect even higher, because it's your curiosity and the creativity of the way you see things coming together that makes the picture so beautiful. And for us to really be able to be dimensionally well, you know, to be able to help our daughters from one place to another and support her through that is a feat.
Carolyn Renee, talk about the points of connection with Interplay and the work you're doing with the BIPOC community there, because I think that really addresses what Shannon just spoke to about interplay and wellness and birthright practices.
Cool. Yeah. Thank you so much, Christine. So I think I'm going into my fourth year as Interplay's co-liaison to people of color, or brown and Black people. And we really started that as just a way to bring brown and Black bodies together to play. And when George Floyd was murdered, and we had all that, you know, time to be in our homes, that just called to us in a huge way. And then there was this artist, can't remember his name, the young man who sang the song "I Just Want to Live," you know. Sorry, I can't remember his name. But anyways, that song was just touching all of us so deeply, and the moment was touching us so deeply. And so, yes, to the points of connection, that's the fourth Wednesday of every month. And yeah, today's the fourth Wednesday, and it happened today at 12. So we do different time zones because inner players are all over the world, and they can interface with this points of connection. It's an hour of power, right? The points of connection. But it started 4 years ago, and it's purely play. And when after the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery, we were just, everybody was suffering. And so we created another place. It's called a sacred space holding. And that is on the first Monday and the third Monday. So it's something that we started because of that. It's like people needed a place, a sacred space holding place. And so that's what we do. We come together so it's two different things. The points of connection, fourth Wednesday, for BIPOC is where we come together and just play for an hour. And then the sacred space holding on Mondays and the first and third Mondays is where people can come together and just have space held for them. We still have a theme that we might play with. Like last week, it was on, there was the third Monday, and it was the Monday after Valentine's Day. So we were playing with the energy of the heart chakra. So we were playing with emerald green and, the some other things related to the heart, right? But ultimately a place where people could come and hold each other and be held.
I love that. And I did not know that emerald was related to the heart. That's my birthstone. My birthday is May 17th. So when you said your daughter's is March 17th, I said, let's go 17th babies. We're different,
Y'all are go-getters for sure.
Yes. Yes. But I think it's so important. I can't downplay, even without having gone to an interplay class yet, how important I feel like it is. I love playing like a little kid. I'm very serious, and you got to get your work done first, but in order to really live to the fullest, be dimensionally well, like, relax. It's not that serious. You know what I mean? Like, we got to let this stuff go, but it is that serious because Brianna was asleep. That's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, I look like Brianna. You telling me y'all not gonna call somebody? Like, Shannon was nice, but oh well. Like, but when we talk about lynching, right? If we said anything, I might be lynched if I say anything. So the fact that we can just talk about it on social media is a huge step. You know what I mean? And still be out here on a podcast with women the next day. So when I run 4 times a week, I run for you, Ahmad. You know what I mean? When I'm out here doing my business, is because of stuff like this. Is crazy, but it's about us taking care of ourselves and being connected with the people who are going to help. And historically, that has been women. And here we are, connected in wisdom, grounded and in the 8 dimensions of wellness, because we're going to live phenomenally. And so I appreciate you women helping me create history, because that's crazy. And I can't even say it won't happen to me, because I go to sleep every night. And you try to keep your blood sugar down. You try to keep your blood pressure down, and laugh and just play and be able to live life and think about hobbies and what you're going to do in 5 years and investments. That's a long way away, And so that's why it's so important for us to have these conversations. It seems simple, but it's not easy to do this stuff with everything that life, brings to the table. So we got to be connected and play a little bit.
Carolyn Renee, I am so grateful you joined us today. And I know you live one of the most full lives. I always get annoyed when people tell me I'm too busy. So I'm not going to say you live a busy life. I'm going to say you live one of the most full and engaging lives of the people that I know. And I am just so grateful that you took time to be with us today.
Yes.
And we will... what we've started doing, Carolyn Renee, I haven't even told you this yet, is we've started on Mondays having a conversation on Clubhouse to follow up from our podcast. So if our listeners want to be on and have the conversation with us, so Monday we will be in a Clubhouse room and talking about intellectual wellness. And so I know you are like working your tail off. But if you can join us, we would love to have you in the clubhouse room with us and continue this conversation.
Well, I appreciate that invite. Do let me know. I do have a spa date on Monday with my daughter. So
That's important.
that is very important. So not the daughter I told you about. This is Nona. Nona and I are going to the spa on Monday.
Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming on to our podcast.
Oh, thank you, Shannon, and thank you, Christine. Yes, very much so appreciated. And I put something in the chat box to you, Christine, because I think if my mathematics was adding up correctly, that this could be the Shannon that makes the mango shea butter.
Yes.
Okay, I need some more. Christine knows how to get in touch with me. Send me an invoice. I'll send you the place where to ship it to.
Okay, I love that. ShealoGlo.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Look at that. And this is why you're my shero, Christine. You see what I'm talking about?
Right.
So,
talking about, wasn't that fun? Like, didn't you
yes,
need to know her? Like,
of course.
you need to know Carolyn Renee.
We got to be connected.
Right. Talking about Shero, tell folks what that is when
Yes.
our sponsor ShealoGlo. Talk about that.
Yeah, so sheros are, I put together the word hero and shea butter, right? But it's the person in your community, your Carolyn Renee, that's helping you through different situations. A normal person, right? A normal woman that does uncommon things in the community, in the way that she gives to her community, the way that she takes care of herself. And you know that without her, your life would not be the same. You know, I think that we know at least one woman in our life when we look back on how it would have gone had they not been there. And a lot of times, because women take care of everybody else, we're sick. People don't ask us if we're okay. Did you drink some water? How'd you sleep? Did you eat something before you cook for the next 16 people and then eat whatever is cold at the bottom of the whatever you cooking? You know, we got to take care of ourselves. So ShealoGlo, my handmade shea butter company, we're going to honor the sheros while they're here, right? And I give a care package that is tailored to each person once a quarter and once every 3 months. And we're going to honor our ladies. So if you know somebody that you love and adore that has changed their life, email Shero nomination to ShealoGlo@gmail.com, and we will put her in the consideration to get one. We have the first announcement coming up. I'm not going to tell you ladies right now, you got to stay tuned, okay? But if you know somebody that you want to take care of and send a self-care package, nominate them, and they will be in the consideration.
And we'll put that info in the show notes also.
Yes.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yes, of course.
Well, this has just been an awesome conversation, Shannon. What did you pull out of what Carolyn Renee said or what we've talked about so far on intellectual wellness? Was there anything that really stood out to you today that you want to chew on a little bit this week?
What I want to chew on, my wisdom in action, right, is the Sacred Woman book that she was talking about and the 9 gateways. You know, again, I want to be intentional about my faith, of course, with everything going on. Again, that's helped me keep my sanity. But I think as a Black woman, I was realizing that I didn't even look myself in the mirror all the way, Christine. Before quarantine slowed all of us down, I couldn't tell you what my ears look like. Do you know what your belly button looks like right now? You know what I mean? Do you know what your pinky toe looks like? I didn't know. And so we have to spend more time with ourselves. So I love baths. She said something about a bath, you know, and if I could be...
she's talking my language when she says sacred bath. I'm
right. I'm like, let me find out about that. And so I just want to be intentional in every way. You know, I don't think there's anything... let's just be transparent, right? I don't think there's anything demonic with me being mindful of my mind being open and my voice being heard and my heart being open and me being connected to my body, you know? That just sounds like being dimensionally well. And I'll pray about it and me and God will continue on with our relationship, you know? But Sacred Woman, I definitely want to look more into that.
Well, you know, if it's a book, It got your attention.
And you know I love books.
You and
gotta
I
have the information.
Common, my friend.
Yes.
I was cleaning out a bookshelf this weekend. I was doing some decluttering. I'm taking this new program called Shine On, and it's really about decluttering and clearing clutter from your energy and your house and so even before the class started, I was, it's kind of cleaning. It's like you clean before the maid comes. Not that I have a maid, but that whole concept that
the company comes. Yeah.
So I was cleaning before the class started about decluttering because I felt like it was one layer. And books are always the hardest. Like I was like, oh, but I did put a few in the donate pile, and I was proud of myself. I was like, okay. But yeah, the whole like open to new ideas and the reading and the learning, and are we open to it? We can always say no, thank you. Right. We can research something and we can say, nope, that doesn't align with my
values. For me.
But even being open to it is, I think, the part of the intellectual wellness is not saying, my way is the only way.
Right. And I also
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking about, even when we talk about this, about antiracism, right?
Right.
Because we live in the United States in a white dominant culture, it's very easy, especially for white people, to say, my way is the only way. And that's what's gotten us into some white supremacy and some really bad stuff this year. I was going to curse, but I'm trying not to podcast. So, I think the thing about opening ourselves to new ideas, new cultures, people from backgrounds that don't look like us or aren't our same ages or may not have the same religious beliefs as we do. I love that that's a part of wellness.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting, right? Like, I've always been an honor student, but as soon as somebody said, hey, you should start a business, I shot it down immediately. And I was like, whoa, I'm usually open to new ideas. Why did I say no to myself so quick? And I realized that, I was wrong to think that way, and then here I am with my own business, and we're doing all this great stuff, because I changed my mind. But it also reminds me of how instead of a bucket list, I love to do things for the first time. So my thing, Christine, and it was interesting seeing the picture of these people climbing the wall at the Capitol, because the things I say no to, and they just clearly said yes. I should say yes to myself more often, because I'm only limiting myself, right? Right. But it's completely different. But to stay sane.
Well, let's all be real about that. If people that look like you had been climbing the Capitol, there would have been a completely different outcome.
Brianna was asleep. We can't even sleep. We're not protecting ourselves when we're pregnant with warning shots. I can't carry Skittles down the road. I can't run and exercise and do cardio. You know what I mean? So I just bind all of that stuff. And instead, I have to be aware of the environment that I'm in, but then operate somewhere else. And so instead of worrying about this person in their corner of their, rocking chair, wherever they are in their house, comfortable, let me live my life. So instead of, again, a bucket list and thinking about death, which is what happens when after slavery and being controlled, a whole community is repeatedly lynched, it's hard not to think about that. I flip it. And we're going to do stuff for the first time. So I went on a motorcycle, went to a Black Bike Week. I went zip lining. I go skydiving, and I try things for the first time. And then if you try it quicker and you realize you don't like it, then you just saved the 8 years that you would have thought about it and took 5 minutes and said a definite no and moved on. And that's what's been so liberating for me focusing on intellectual wellness. It's not just your IQ. I'm really smart. That's great. You can work on that. You can read some books, have somebody read them to you, but they can't make you open to eating better so that your physical wellness is better and your emotional wellness is better. And then overall, your whole life has changed.
And how it all comes together, right?
Exactly.
I love that last question about, do you look for ways to use creativity? I'm a hell yes on that one.
I'm getting better.
And I see you as creative, my friend. When I look at your
much.
When I look at even your product line and how that's your art, right? That is your art. Everybody's art looks different, but I see that creativity in you.
Thank
you. And so, yeah, I'm going to be wisdom in action this week. Like, I'm really going to be thinking about this. And so, you know, what do I want to do about intellectual wellness and this week? And what does that mean? You know, I'm taking that new class through Tufts University. So I feel like I'm doing good there on the scholastic.
You're doing great. Yes.
Right now. And then, so we'd love, ladies and our listeners, if you will tag us, if you are doing some wellness this week, any of the 8 dimensions of wellness, really. But if you're also doing some intellectual wellness this week, tag us on Wisdom in Action. So if you hear this podcast and you're thinking, oh yeah, that I want to do that, join us. Join us in this movement of wellness and taking care of ourselves and each other.
Yes. Yes, I love it. And again, it's really a daily reminder when we hear these stories. I wish that you could prevent it, right? But you can't. And so what we're doing, well, we haven't done that yet. Okay. So what I focus on instead is adding more to each day, taking a second to be intentional about what I put on my body, what I'm learning, how I handle situations. And I look forward to the stories of the wisdom in action and you ladies and gentlemen doing the same. And don't forget to be well, be wise, be whole. We will see you next Wednesday here live at 5.
Looking forward to it, my friend. See you soon.
Talk to you.